Hello, brothers and sisters. Last night I had a very prophetic dream. It felt so real that I could actually feel the pain inside of it. I am a true prophet of the Lord my God. The prophetic dream I had last night was of Israel mistreating the groom in a forced marriage. Today is October 20th, 2022, or Tishri 24, 5783. I was forced into a prearranged marriage with a woman, Israel, but she didn't love me. All she wanted was to see how much I could give her, but she only cares about herself. In fact, she wanted to see how much she could benefit out of me, like Israel asking God for benefits without accepting Jesus. She decided she was going to purposely test me above and beyond my limits by reciprocating insult and punishment for every kindness I provided her. Even though I had to marry her, I decided to try and please her. She started to argue with me, stating that my love was not good enough for her. I had exhausted every last word of debate I could exchange with her, but I had one last option. That option was to apologize to her, even though I knew she was wrong and I was in the right. Instead of falsely apologizing just to keep the peace, I decided to hang up the argument and leave her hanging to retain my dignity. As a peace offering, I decided to gather up the excess wedding cupcakes to bring to her as an act of kindness instead of speaking to her anymore. When I got back, her eyes had turned red with accusations, claiming that I had left and cheated on her. Then she hired a bodyguard to boss me around and enforce her will upon me, using me as a slave, instead of at least keeping me on the same level as a husband with her status of wife. That was the last straw for me. I finally told her that I wanted out of the marriage by giving her a verbal divorce, because I couldn't attack her directly due to the bodyguard she had hired with our own money, which is God's eternal covenant. I decided to make her surroundings a living hell if she wouldn't let me leave. I smashed all the precious things she had surrounded herself with inside her house, but she sent her bodyguard to come and attack me. I threw a weapon towards him, but he caught it and threw a weapon twice as large, made out of rebar, towards me, which lodged itself into my body. I pulled it out of myself and I instantly healed, even though it was physically painful. Every single time I threw a weapon, it would miss him and he'd boomerang one twice as large towards me, lodging itself through me. Me, as Michael, I could literally feel the pain in my dream each time the weapons pierced me. Instead of giving up, I decided to use the weapons the bodyguard had reformed against me by forming a giant protective cage around myself. Every time I threw a weapon from inside my cage, he'd again throw another weapon twice as large. But they didn't pierce me as bad while inside the cage, so I collected them all up, like God storing up his judgment for false Israel. Then I was able to craft a mighty weapon which, when thrown, would absolutely crush the bodyguard. The end of the eternal covenant refreshed with Christ's new covenant. The bodyguard was killed and floated dead down the river. But I still had an excessive amount of rebar lodged in me, which I took my time to pull out because I didn't want to feel the pain anymore. A side note, the bodyguard was in the form of Dean Braxton. I don't know why. He is a man who died for 120 minutes clinically and claims to have gone to heaven, and that he saw our one and true Messiah, the Son of God, Yeshua Jesus, and that he was in the presence of our one true living God. I reposted his testimony on my channel. John 3:29-36. It is the bridegroom who marries the bride and not the other way around. He must become more and I must become less.